Hello and welcome to Megafone, the Portuguese word for loudspeaker. And now I'm speaking in English so that you folks can see the translation at the bottom for the translation and for the translation feed not to get so expensive. So I'm here in the studio with on the other side over Zoom with James Pratt. And I'm so glad to have him honored, actually. This TV station is honored to have James Pratt because upon looking at his IMDb profile, I was astonished. I was really impressed. And again, it's always an honor to have somebody like him in our show. He's here with us today. And we're going to be talking not only about Malibu Crush, his latest 2002 film. Let me just call it later because I believe he's working or has worked on other projects. But this Malibu film is also available in Amazon on Amazon Prime in Brazil, so you can watch it here on if you have Amazon. Just all you have to do is rent the film, and you'll be able to enjoy it. He'll tell us the plot, but of course without spoilers. Anyway, so James, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having a conversation with me,
Hello,
Rodrigo.
sorry. Yes, again, it's quite an honor. Before we delve into Malibu Crush, I'd like to ask what projects you've worked on because you're big in Hollywood, I'd say.
You're being very generous. Well, this year's been a bit crazy because we had the writers' strike and then the actors' strike. So, I mean, for the majority of 2023, this year has just been about people being on hold. But just to answer your question, I mean, Australian, a couple of Australian productions and quite a few American feature films and TV shows is my background.
Oh, I see. Yes, you've been a few of those. But anyway, folks, just find them on IMDb, imdb.com. That is the best place for you to find works that people who are really serious about any area in the film industry. So anyone who's serious about the film industry, they'll probably be featured on IMDb. You'll see their IMDb profile. I typically say to artists or filmmakers, even aspiring filmmakers, when they start bragging about projects they've worked on, I'll be like, okay, so may I see your IMDb profile? I mean, I know it sounds a little bit arrogant, but come on, if you've got an IMDb profile, that means you're really in the industry. By the way, I've got at least one project on IMDb. So let's not delve into Malibu Crush, which is a film our audience in Brazil is able to see. We're able to see you. Malibu Crush 2022. Please tell us about this film.
Yeah, I'd probably best sum it up as anyone that loved the movie Dumb and Dumber. It's basically Dumb and Dumber go from Los Angeles to Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. So it's very simple humor. I think it's very fun. It's a buddy road trip, and this was a film that was shot over COVID. And I mean, if anyone's a fan of the Farley Brothers, Shallow Hal, Something About Mary, this would definitely be a film for you to check out. And Brazil actually got first taste of it, meaning it came out. It was released on Amazon before the American premiere in America. So that was something that was kind of neat as well.
What is pilot season in Hollywood?
That's a good question because we're coming up on pilot season. And I do see quite a lot of Brazilian and a lot of people, like when you go to LA or in Hollywood, it's not just people from America. There's people from right around the world that are there. Actors, writers, directors, producers. And one of the reasons people live in Los Angeles is because pilot season it happens once a year. Traditionally, it's sort of January, February, March, where all the networks basically cast possible TV shows that they're going to make for the rest of the year. And so that in that particular 3 months, I mean, there's casting for, over 100 TV shows. Now, all those TV shows may not see them all the way through to being made, but those 100 TV shows, they're going to cast the actors, and then they're going to shoot 1, 2, 3 episodes, put in front of a test audience, and if it resonates well, then they'll greenlit. So a great example, I mean, Game of Thrones. They shot the first couple of episodes as a pilot that they would have cast from a pilot, and then they would have actually, greenlit the series with HBO. So essentially, for anyone, pilot season, if you're an actor, you want to be in that mix because you can be testing for 3 shows a day, and that really kind of brings out the best in you. But also, I mean, there's a higher chance you'll get a job then than perhaps over winter in Hollywood, over summer in Hollywood, which is sort of June, July, where everyone's on break.
Yeah, I'd say it's a dream for anyone who wants to be in to become to get to this acting or get their acting together, if you will, pun intended. Now, I've heard of people who ended up. I'd say that's the sad part of the story. I've heard of people who ended up in Hollywood for this pilot season, and Hollywood, just say in LA, and they ended up like years ago. Let's say, and they're like 50 years old, and currently they're still in LA, but working in other endeavors because they didn't succeed in the film industry. And I find it kind of like frustrating because, or a little bit sad. I was in my film school one day. The instructor, he mentioned a few students of his that ended up in Hollywood in pursuit of their dream. And to this day, they're in Hollywood, but they're in LA, but they're in dead end jobs. I mean, I know it's a little bit sad to say, but they're kind of like in dead end jobs. They ended up in dead end jobs in LA, and because of this, they're like, have you experienced this? Have you can you relate to this somehow?
Well, I think the best way to look at America, in let's just say, because you made a good point, let's say Hollywood, let's just call it Los Angeles, the film capital of the world. There can only be one person that gets the role. So, let's say 19 people test, serious people are testing for that role. There's only going to be one person who walks away happy. So I think, as you mentioned, like there's probably going to be the feel-good story, and then there's also going to be the stories of people that just haven't clicked. I have heard both sides of the coin. I mean, I know there's an actor story that's really interesting. There's a person that I knew that went over from Australia, hadn't got anything, 2.5 years, 3 years, been there, almost 4 years, didn't even get a commercial, not one single paying job. And he's like, hey, I'm going to move back to Australia. He told his representation, his agent, his manager, and he said, "Oh, for the last 2 weeks, I'm in America. I'm going to do a road trip up the coast." He starts driving up the coast on a road trip. His agent just pleads with him, like, "Can you just do this last self tape?" He does on his iPhone, which he does in the back of his van. He said, uploaded it at a Starbucks because back in that particular point, like Wi-Fi wasn't as easy. Uploaded Starbucks. And then that one audition went on to another audition, which went on to him getting a series regular role. And that series regular role, it started paying $45,000 an episode for the first 10 episodes. And since then, he's gone on. So it's that roller coaster of like, you could be down on nothing. And then if it's your time, it's your time.
What is a great story on set that you can think of? Just say a great acting story or any story that you can share with us on set.
There's so many, but when you say that, I think what comes to mind is earlier in my career when I was on this TV show. It was a very period-driven film, TV series, sorry, very period-driven TV series. And they were trying to do a reenactment of when Captain Cook founded Australia. They, like with the settlements that came up after that and the disconnect between the government and people that came out. And there was this scene where they made they'd made these very period piece kind of like huts out of wood, and the idea was to shoot all the interior shots in them, and then to burn them down with the exterior shots with the actors. And long story short, what happened is they did all the interior shots, and then they were doing the exterior. And one of the scenes is soldiers come to this one particular house, and I mean, obviously, back in that time, I mean, there wasn't, you know, anywhere near the technology. It was basically, if soldiers came, they had bayonets, or they had, you know, pieces of wood to break into your house. So they're trying to break into this house to make it look realistic. And one of the people on set, I think it looked like a producer, but he came out and he said, "Oh, let's get the POV from inside the house, like, you know, these soldiers breaking into the house." So if you can kind of picture 10 non-actors, just very strong extras playing soldiers, trying to break into this house, given pieces of wood, and cinematographer inside the house, and he's basically capturing these pieces of wood starting to break in. Anyway, we're all, you know, basically on set watching. It's quite a big production. There's probably about 150 people on set that day, and they put the smoke machines in, and they started burning the, you know, part of it, this house. And these guys, these 10 extras that were told just to break in, they got so carried away with it that they started like really, really forcefully like tearing this place down with their planks of wood, like just like ramming the side. Anyway, long story short, one of these pieces of wood just like slipped out of this guy's hand, went straight into the house and into the face of the cinematographer, who got knocked unconscious. Keep in mind, they'd set a fire to the side of this as well, so they couldn't rescue him as easily. So what meant to be like a really good shot ended up being basically like an emergency, where they were trying to rescue the cinematographer from a burning house who'd been knocked unconscious. And some of the extras didn't understand that was like, it was real. Like, they thought that was part of the scene. So they kept trying to break the house down in other parts of the shot. So it was, when you say like a story from on set, I'll never forget that, because it was like, yeah, great intentions, but it went sideways very, very fast. Cinematographer was okay, by the way. They dragged him out, and I heard he was okay.
I mean, one thing I learned, and that reminds me of one of my film lessons, like cinematography lessons, is that the director should never ever let that, you know, drop that, let that or how do we say, clap that clapper until that clapper should never clap unless they're certain that everything is safe. And you know, the director, that's what people on TV need to understand about film, that the director has responsibilities, and that clapper can never go down. The clapper can never clap until the director is sure that the scene is ready to be filmed, and that it is safe, because they are responsible for the safety of the people present on set. So that is one lesson I learned, and I've heard of situations whereby people have died on set because of irresponsible directors. I'm not saying that this is the case, but I've heard of cases whereby on film school, I've heard of cases of people dying on set because of irresponsibility, because the director wasn't as responsible as they should have been. You know, and again, that a lot of people who watch films don't understand how important or what kind of how much how do I say, how important it is for the cinematographer, I mean for the director to understand his role, in that they're really responsible for the lives of those people on set once that clapper goes down.
Yeah, there's definitely a responsibility.
And since you have this much experience on set, you've even got stories to tell, stories that I only heard on film school. You want to drop some names? Perhaps Leonardo DiCaprio?
Well, DiCaprio, I think, I mean, he's the last true movie star, I would say, because at the moment, and it's just the way the business is going, but it's a lot more about the characters than the actors these days. And what I mean by that is, they'll make a Spider-Man and 5 years later they'll just cast another actor and then Spider-Man comes up again. And it's about Spider-Man. Or same thing with a lot of the superhero genres where it's more than one actor over time will be playing that character. Uh, and it takes away from, I suppose, like, films 10, 20 years ago where it was you went to the movies or you went and watched that movie because it had your favorite actor in it. I think, right now, Tom Cruise, Leonardo DiCaprio, they're really, when you see their film, their fan base will watch a movie just because Tom Cruise is in it or just because Leonardo DiCaprio is in it. Whereas I think to get to that level, a lot of actors will sadly never get to that point just because it's the nature of the roles they're playing or what have you. But yeah, I think DiCaprio is we're witnessing the last true movie star at the moment where his roles are Oscar worthy every time he gets on screen. And I would watch a movie straight away just if he's in it without even seeing the preview, just because of the skill level he brings.
And when you want to drop some names of actors or even cinematographers or directors you've shared a set with?
Well, they're all great in different capacities. I think there's been times when I've been on set with and working with really really successful actors. Like Emmy nominated, Oscar nominated, and they're fantastic. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think one of the ways you talk about your people you heard in film school, like horror stories, when they go to say Los Angeles and they're still working really, let's just say like low paying jobs. Years and years later, they haven't actually got that career they wanted. I think one of the keys to that is just remembering, you're not on set to be starstruck, or you're not on set to kind of meet the actors. You've got a job to do too, and I think that's the fastest way to win respect in Los Angeles. Whether you're a writer, director, producer, which is if you go there, work hard, and you're prepared to actually do your job. Then after that is when you can sort of socialize and really be there. Because what you find is with these actors like DiCaprio, they're really not, they're not going to take a selfie with you on set. Like they're not going to, want to hear about your weekend or even, 1 or 2 degrees of separation while you know them, because they're so focused on, remembering their scene and their objective and why they're there. And once you call cut, that's when there's an opportunity to kind of bond. So I think, I mean, just to sort of put it out there, yeah, like I don't want to sort of pinpoint just one person, but there's been fantastic people that I've worked with, both, in front of the camera and behind the camera. But I'd definitely say, yeah, that's the key to it. Winning their respect is when you do a good job, then they see that.
Yes, and I think you that kind of answers my next question, which is, how do you get big in Hollywood? And I think humility. That's the one thing I learned in film school. Humility and as you mentioned, do your job, be the best version of you.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I remember I had a conversation with someone that was very, very big in the music industry. Um, and I'm sorry if I'm not name dropping because I'm more doing it out of respect because I just don't want to have to look like I'm using them for attention. But uh, I said to them, because we're actually at a bar for quite a while for someone's birthday, and I remember having a great conversation for a long, long time. And I said to him, like, what have you learned over the years? Because they pretty much did the same thing. They came to Los Angeles and nobody in the music industry, and now one of the biggest names. And they basically said, look, the key was I had really good people around me, because the more I got, the first time I recorded a music video, and then the first time I suddenly, had like my label going platinum, and all these milestones, it was just to avoid the distractions. And I think that's kind of probably the best way to make it, is if you can understand that you don't have to win an Oscar for the distractions to be there. Like, the distractions will be there the day you get there, and it's just staying focused on what you want to do. Like with this particular gentleman, which was, every time he hit that milestone, it wasn't all of a sudden wanting to just celebrate and take in. It was being aware that the distraction is getting bigger and bigger, and so you've got to focus more and more on what your objective is, because it's easy to, it's easy to get distracted. I mean, people in Hollywood love celebrating success, so you're not going to have any shortage of fans. You get your first lead role, you have a movie premiere, things like that. People will come, but it's more just remembering there's only 24 hours in a day. So, are you there because you want to socialize, or are you there because you want to make something very, very good?
And well, if you want to be socializing in Hollywood, then you better become just a journalist. You might as well want to become a journalist, not in a.
Well, yeah, if you want to,
I don't think
if you want to be socialized in Hollywood, you better have a very good publicist that you probably have to pay like 10 grand a month to literally just make you relevant for no reason. And the moment you can't pay the publicist, you don't have any skill to fall back on. So I think that line of being famous is not for everybody. So keep in mind, yeah, like when you wonder why people suddenly are in the media or Daily Mail or whatever, and you're like, oh, why am I reading about them? They've paid a lot of money to be there every month, and that's why they drop off the face of the earth suddenly. Because it's just one day they're like, hey, I'm just sick and tired of paying this much money. Whereas if you can bring a skill, whether it's a writer, director, musician, an actor, your talent is your publicity. Like, that will get you out there and that will live on. So both are fine if you want one more than the other, but just being honest, that's sometimes why people fail. Because, for example, they're wanting to be famous more than an actor, but they're not getting the acting roles, or vice versa.
And you want to tell us about your upcoming projects? I've seen a few on IMDb. So you want to give some spoilers?
Well, it's finally that time, because the strike, the writer's strike's over, SAG strike's over, and a lot of the studios are kind of winding down for 2023, and they'll really kick off to make up for lost time in the new tax season in 2024. So I'm very excited. Mirage to Redemption, which is a film, be shooting very early next year, which is great. Got the lead role in that. And then that's to be followed by a coming of age film as well, with a director called Keishon Blackstone, which hasn't been announced yet, but it's coming up, which is another lead role. So next year should be a fun role, but unfortunately no comedy like Malibu Crush. These are much more drama sort of films. So just in case someone watches Malibu Crush and thinks, looking for some more of that sort of stupid, dumb humor, unfortunately, not these two films coming up.
And is there anything you'd like to say to the Brazilian audience that I forgot to mention?
Well, I mean, coming from Australia, I grew up surfing, and obviously, like, the best surfers in the world are from around Brazil. So, well, I like to think Australia and Brazil. So yeah, I've got many friends over the years, even in California here, love going surfing with Brazilians, and big fans. So I'm very excited that Malibu Crush got released in Brazil, but regardless of that, it's great to talk to you as well.
Anyways, so James, we were delighted to have you on our show. Thank you so much for taking this time to talk to us.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, I've really enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, good luck with your films coming up as well.